What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys with my Fortune Fairy spellcaster oriented deck profile. So it is still a Fortune Fairy engine, it's just using a lot of the advances of spellcaster support to really get it going. I've probably said this, but the Fortune Fairies being out is a good thing, but also can hinder itself because it needs a lot of support. And luckily enough, spellcasters have it, but it just ranges on how you want to play the deck itself. So I took the time, of course, to just mash up a couple of things, put a little here and there, and just see how it goes from there. So without further ado, you guys, let's get started on the Fortune Fairy deck profile. So I am rocking 3 copies of Fortune Fairy Hikari, 2 copies of Fortune Fairy Een, 2 copies of Fortune Fairy Hugh, and 2 copies of Fortune Fairy Chi. To follow that up, I'm running 3 copies of Fortune Lady Past, then 3 copies of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, and then the last monster I'm rocking out with is a set of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. So that is it for all of the main deck monsters. I'm going to move on to the spells. And my spell lineup starts off, of course, with the Fortune Fairy spells. That's 2 copies of Magical Stone, 2 copies of Unacceptable Results, and 2 copies of Lucky Loan. Then for the rest of the spells, I'm running, of course, the full engine of anything that can be used for Spellcaster Archetype deck. I'm running 2 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge, 2 copies of Spellbook of Secrets, 3 copies of Wonder Wand, which I'm actually going to put here instead, and then 2 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcasters, 2 copies of Magical Stone Excavation, 2 copies of Twin Twister, 1 Terraforming, 1 Monster Reborn, and 1 for 1. So that is it for all the cells, and that actually ends off the main deck. There are no traps featured in this deck. And then for the extra deck, I am simply running 2 copies of Fortune Lady Every, 1 copy of Black Rose Dragon, 1 copy of Stardust Dragon, and 1 copy of Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Tree. Then following that up, I'm running 1 Levier the Sea Dragon, 1 Slacker Magician, and 1 Downer Magician. Then I'm running 1 Link Kuriboh, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Daybreaker, the Shining Magical Warrior, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Barrel Sword Dragon, and 1 Stereuja Skull Tribe. So that's pretty much the lineup for my main extra deck for the Fortune Fairies. So let's talk about it. The Fortune Fairies in the deck did take a massive drop. One of them being that I dropped Fortune Fairy Sui and Fortune Fairy Anne, because these are monsters that would have to have some other spellcasters that I'm okay with banishing, and I can get back real easy. This isn't really much of a hybrid deck, so I'm not trying to rely too much on that. And I'm already dealing with enough of the normal summons as it is, so I had to fluctuate the deck itself to really fit in a lot more of the other support. Now, as far as the deck itself goes, Fortune Fairy Hikari contributes herself to contribute any monster you control on the field when she is summoned from the hand to give you a level 1 spellcaster type monster from the deck, bringing it to the board. So the biggest option, of course, is Fortune Lady Pass. Fortune Lady Pass and Fortune Lady Every work really well in just any generic spellcaster deck as long as you have a tuner. The reason why is because of Fortune Lady Every's requirements for her synchro summon. And the fact that Fortune Lady Pass can banish spellcasters, there's so many of them in this main deck as it is, and even if I can't use them, she can banish them from the hand, she can banish them from the field, she can banish them from the grave, and then gain those levels. And I can synchro with a lot of them, or I can synchro with I can just prevent synchro and then go into some crazy shenanigans thanks to her. This combination honestly just gets extended even more with cards like Monster Reborn and 1 for 1. So you have your great options there. Alright, I want to move on from these, and now I'm going to go to the rest of the Fortune setup. I have the Fortune Fairy Een, Fortune Fairy Hugh, and Fortune Fairy Chi. So Chi is your draw power, When she summons a summon from your hand, both players will draw one card. Fortune Fairy Hue, whenever she is such a summon from the hand, I can select a banished spellcaster type monster and add that card to my hand, so I can recycle a lot of the options. And then Fortune Fairy Ian can select a stat card on the field and destroy it. So if I can't get into my Twin Twisters, Ian can at least help with some of the traps because I do have the spells locked down. Like I said, there's no Sweet and there's no Hue. I guess most of the preference is just to help speed up some options. And then Hue, well, I'm not looking Anne, I'm not running Sweet. And I think Hue was supposed to help in combination with Anne and Sweet. But I just did not want to run either of them at all. So I just X'd it out. Which is funny because, like the Fortune Ladies, I actually would not X out Water and Dark. I actually would take advantage of them being in the deck. But yeah, that for the most part. Of course, the Pacific of the spellbook Magician of Prophecy, an additional spellcaster who can search for the spellbook spells so that I can take advantage of them. And then Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, because why not have a hand trap that you can use? I was going to put in Effect Veiler. I mean, you just go 2/2/2, 2 Veiler, 2 Ash, and 2 Spellbook Magician if that was ever the case. But I just chose not to, and she does help with a lot of things in the current game because of how current decks are being ran. So that is pretty much it for the monsters. We move on to all these spells. So in combination with the Fortune Fairies, we do have their own specific spells. We have the Magical Stone, we have the Unacceptable Result, and we have the Lucky Loan. So the Magician's stuff, the Magical Stone, pretty much boosts the power of all spellcaster type monsters on the field for the number of number of Fortune Fairies that are on the field with a different name. So because of how this deck works, you can easily put a lot of them on the field. I think my massive total will probably be about 200. No, not 200, about 2K if possible. Because of Fortune Fairy Hue, Fortune Fairy Een, Fortune Fairy Hikari, and Fortune Fairy Chi. Most likely it'll probably not be Chi on the field, but in a range of 15 to 2,000, just depending on who's on the field, who's not on the field. Lucky Loan is an ability that you can target a Fortune Fairy monster you control and then such summon a spellcaster type monster whose level is one less than the one that you have on the field. The thing about this is that you're only using it for the ones in your hand, and you're probably mostly using this between Hugh and Hikari, so that way they can trigger off their effects. I was gonna try to, like I said, Anne was just the one that had to get out the deck because it really was really with her. As far as, as far as the combinations and setup will go, because it would go from Chi to Anne, from Anne to Sui, from Sui to Hugh, from Hugh to from Hugh to Een, and from Een to Hakari, and that all ranges on what other additional stuff you want to play. Then we have Unacceptable Result. If you control Spellcaster, you can summon a Fortune Fairy from your hand to the field. That pretty much just extends more plays there. Especially the link plays, because the link plays can be very, very crucial in this deck and can be very useful in a lot of situations, just because of how fast these monsters can make themselves come onto the field. So I will be dropping out from these, and now we'll be moving on to the next set of monsters. Spells, I say monsters. We have the beautiful Wonder Wand, we have the Spellbook of Knowledge, and the Spellbook of Secrets. Spellbook of Secrets is just here to help either search for the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy or to search for Spellbook of Knowledge. Spellbook of Knowledge is here to work with spellcasters, sending them to the grave to draw 2 cards, and that's draw power, which means more Fortune Fairies, which means more plays, which also means more spells that can be used. And Wonder Wand in the same sense, 500 additional attack to the spellcaster that is equipped to. And then I can send it and the spellcaster is equipped to the grave to draw 2 more cards. So draw power for days. Well, draw and search power for days. Just Wonder Wands at 3 because I just have more targets than I do for the spell books. Then we have the Secret Village of the Spellcaster. So this field spell is to help me deal with a ton of the nasty decks that do run massive amounts of spells. If you can control the spellcasters you control on the board, you can easily take advantage of them and not have to worry so much about what spells and stuff your opponent's playing. You can just lock them out of that and deal with the traps if they have any accordingly. Next up is the Magical Stone Excavation in Twin Twister. So these two cards, Vermin's Magical Stone is here to add any souls from my grave back to hand, and I can use them again and again. I can even loot Magical Stone for Magical Stone. I wish I was running a third Magical Stone, that would help out, but not. Twin Twister, back row removal. And simple back row removal in case I do dead draw into some of my Fortune Fairies. Same thing with Magical Stone because of its discard ability. Then my last three cards in the deck are Terraforming, Reborn, and One for One. Terraforming to help me search for the field spell Secret Village. Monster Reborn 1 for 1 to extend some additional social summons in the deck. So that is it for the main deck, and now we move on to the extra. I think it's just pretty standard setups here. We got I got all of my synchro monsters, the double, fortunately, the Black Rose Dragon, the Stardust Dragon, and the Leo, Keeper of the Secret Tree. You can put in Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barriers. You can put in this the World Chalice Synchro Monster. You just put in any variation of Synchro, but I think the one that's most needed, of course, is the Fortune Lady Every, because you can synchro with her. I run there's tons of spellcasters being ran in this deck, so getting her to the field is not hard. She has her ability where she can special summon herself from the grave by banishing a spellcaster type monster in the grave. And then during each standby, when she increases her level, you can take out. Every time she increases her level, you can banish one of your opponent's monsters and not have to deal with them. So she does have some great coverage there. Black Rose is field removal, Stardust is some added defense, and Leo is just a walking tank. So that is it for those synchro monsters. We move on to the few exceeds I am running, and that's Levier, Slacker, and Downer. So the Downer Slacker combo works well with any spellcaster deck, especially just any deck that runs level 1s. You put the Slacker Magician out on the field, you put the Downer Magician on top of her, the material from the Slacker will become Downers, and Downer will gain piercing ability and additional attack and defense equal to the number of equal attack increases her attack equals the number of material attached to her. So the more times she hits, the more damage she's giving. But she loses her material every time she attacks. So you do have to be careful how much you want to extend these plays with Downer and Slacker Magician. Levier is here for the banish setup. In case I do need to get somebody back, I have 2 Hues. I can use Hue and Fortune Lady Fortune Lady Pass, and then take advantage of that. Then for the last couple of cards is all these nice Link monsters that I'm running. The one Link Karibo for the level 1 setup and level 1 play. Underclock Taker for some additional Link setup. The Magical Breaker, because this is a spellcaster-oriented deck. He works great with the other spellcasters. The Nightmare Engine that I run of Phoenix and Cerberus to deal with background monsters. Of course, the 2 big heavy hitters, Beryl Sword and Sarayuja, just for some additional support from some heavy-hitting Link monsters. Especially with Sarayuja, because if you can start spamming at least 4 monsters from your hand, you can go into Sarayuja, draw 4 cards, and rearrange, and then just have better options for your better setup. And then Beryl Sword has his OTK setup with him. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck profile for the Fortune Fairy. And I do hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will catch you guys as soon as I possibly can. Thank you guys so much for watching. HPJ signing out. Take care.